let's look at some news stories. This is amazing. Birds Aren't Real is a satirical group that have been pushing for a long time that all the birds have been wiped out and replaced by little drones. I think it's pretty funny, and they have bought the Enron trademark, and they have put up Enron.com again. And they are recruiting for people, and they have a big announcement in 7 days, and probably they're going to announce a cryptocurrency or something, and so it's a very deep satire group, and they're probably going to make some kind of fake scam. So I expect this to be pretty entertaining as a joke. Blue Sky is the new replacement for Twitter. After the election, a huge number of people left Twitter because it became even more offensive and right-wing. At least that's what they say. I don't know. I left Twitter a year or more ago. And so everyone is fleeing to Blue Sky, where they say they're having a pretty good experience, although they're beginning to have the same problems there. Now, they have a large population. They also got a bunch of fake accounts and bots and stuff. So some people have gone there because they wish to reproduce the Twitter social media experience. I'm just sticking with Mastodon for the time being, which is not really much of a social network, but it is a very good source of security news. So anyway, fix that. Oh, good. So this, I thought, was pretty amazing. I've never heard of this before. I've heard of supply chain attacks, but I've never heard of this kind of supply chain attack. The CEO of a company making satellite receivers preloaded them with malware at a purchaser's request. So this happened in November 18. The purchasing company made a special request to include DDoS functionality, and they complied. So they said the functionality was needed to counter the attacks of a competing entity. This is all completely illegal. You have a bunch of customers using these things that don't know they include malware and they're being used for attacks. So the CEO has been arrested. And they say the manufacturer shipped 240,000 receivers, 98,000 of which had a DDoS module pre-installed. If the attack by Israel on Hezbollah about a month ago is another similar case of this, where you buy hardware from somebody and the hardware comes with a built-in Trojan. This is something Bloomberg News claimed that China was doing to us about 8 years ago. It was completely fraudulent, and they never retracted it. They promised to do an investigation, and they never did the investigation and never said anything. But they claimed at that time that Cisco routers and iPhones had hardware Trojans put in there by the Chinese. I think it was a source that came from another group, another reporter that fooled them before. They have a reporter that makes plausible fake conspiracy theories and fools media outlets, but Bloomberg apparently enjoyed this and just let it stand. That's why I've always regarded Bloomberg as a very dangerously unreliable news source ever since. They will just lie and lie outrageously and never correct it. So they don't seem to have any functional fact-checking or any functional integrity. So I just like the Washington Post now and Fox, if I see anything there, I don't trust it unless I can verify it somewhere else, because I know they lie. In fact, there was another story I didn't put in my list today where they checked and they had to rate the accuracy of news sources, and they found that some of them, like, say, the right-wing one before Fox with a B, Breitbart has 8 times the errors of a reputable news site. And, of course, they never fix their errors. Anyway, so this is interesting. If you go to ChatGPT and you ask a question about one of these names, like Brian Hood, it will stop. It will end. These are the names: Brian Hood, Jonathan Turley, and so on. And the reason is these are people who sued. In the early days of ChatGPT, I think I remember Jonathan Turley. He's a famous right-wing lawyer. And if you asked ChatGPT to tell you about him, it would tell you fake scandals, some kind of sexual abuse scandal which was not true, linking to some Washington Post article which did not exist. And so I think he sued, and so they promised not to do it anymore. So their solution was just to put in a filter, so any question about any of these people, it'll produce no answer at all. This is an interesting example of an attempt to add security to these large language models. It is very difficult, and the current efforts to do so are extremely clumsy, like you'll see here. So Biden pardoned his son after promising for at least a year that he would not, that he trusted the justice process. So I think this is pretty awful. I think it tarnishes his legacy and tarnishes the Democratic brand. The whole Democratic claim was that they believed in justice and they believed in the courts and the jury trials and everything, as opposed to Trump, who just thinks it's all rigged. And the argument of Trump, like the argument of Putin and other fascists, is everybody is corrupt, all the judges are corrupt, everybody's on the take, so it doesn't matter that I am, because it's blatantly obvious that Trump is absolutely corrupt, totally for sale. But he says, that's okay, just accept me because all the rest are corrupt too. And, the Democrats would have to actually keep their nose clean if they wanted to maintain a high moral ground, as opposed to Trump and Piers Biden completely throwing it away. At least that's what I think. Other people are saying this is fine because it's less than harm than what Trump did with his pardons. And that might be true, but I don't think that's the point. I mean, the Democrats have been standing for the principle. They have the high moral ground. They respect democracy. They respect the established system and abide by it. And that makes them better than Trump. And this is a strong argument on the other side of that. So as we enter into this Trump age, which is clearly going to be an age marked by unbelievable political corruption and bribery and lies, disinformation all over the place, you better become a critical consumer of media. So I point out this: Mark Benioff owns Salesforce, and he also owns Time Magazine, which I didn't know. And of course, he uses it to promote AI because he's selling AI. So I highly recommend becoming a critical thinker and a critical consumer of media, where you look to say, why are these people lying to me? What are their financial interests? I think we're going to have to exercise a lot of suspicion and discretion as we enter this new age where there won't be much in the way of semblance of any control on the level of corruption around us. And speaking of which, Tesla's self-driving robo-taxis, I don't think they've ever actually sold any yet, but now they're already admitting they aren't going to be driving themselves, really. They're going to be remotely controlled by humans. Now, apparently, this is also true of Waymo, which I don't think they've openly admitted, that if your Waymo, now it does have an AI, and the AI can do some driving, but there are situations where the AI can't figure out what to do. And in that case, a human has to take over, and apparently, they're just remote controlling it. I thought they had to drive out there and physically take control of the vehicle, but apparently not. So that's interesting. It might be okay. It might even save money. I'm thinking of like the supermarket checkout machines where they have the self-checkout and they have to have an employee there watching over maybe 8 of those machines. So maybe one Tesla employee will be controlling 8 taxis, hoping that not all 8 of them get in trouble at once. We'll see what happens. So this is an interesting trick. It sends a Word document in a phishing email, and it's a corrupted Word document, so it can't easily open in Word. And that turns out to also prevent it from being openable by your antivirus solution. So it doesn't get to look in there and find the malware, but when you do open it in Word, Word will offer to recover it. The Word recently has a recovery feature here. Word found unreadable content. Do you want to recover the contents? I've seen this before. If Word has a corrupt document, it can recover it. And if you recover it, then you find the phishing email content, which is a QR code you're supposed to scan with your phone, which will take you to a fake website. This is all pretty clever. This does seem to move past endpoint protection. It's a cute trick, and I haven't heard of this before. Just a cute form of social engineering with a little bit of technical skill in it to slide past our defenses. So this you don't hear very often. Russia arrested one of the cyber criminals that are distributing ransomware. Now, in general, Russia has taken the attitude of many other nations when they are basically at war, is that they legalize crime committed against their enemies. This is an old trick from the privateer days, from days of wooden ships, and the Russians still have this attitude. So the rules are, if you're in Russia and you commit cyber crime and you don't attack targets in Russia, and then you do favors for Putin when he wants you to, they won't arrest you. You get off scot-free. So it is not clear what this guy did. He was part of the Lockbit and Babuk ransomware operations and one of the most wanted cyber criminals in the United States, and Russia arrested him. So the details of why have not come out, but presumably he broke the rules. He either didn't do what Putin asked, or didn't kick in a share of the profits to Putin, or attacked a target in Russia or anything, or something like that. And I expect very much America to work on very similar principles in the Trump administration. It will be, you have to pay your bribe to the leader, and if you don't, then you'll be punished. At least the new FBI director, supposedly Patel, has made it very clear that's exactly the attitude he's going to take. Anyway, Chrome has added an AI feature which checks a series of online scam detection sites and summarizes them to determine whether this site is safe. A quick summary reviews from trusted independent review sites like Trustpilot, Scam Advisor, and others, so a page info bubble will appear saying whether this seems like a safe site to be on. This may actually be quite helpful. It'll depend on if people can understand it. Generally, warning messages like this, most people ignore them because they can't understand them. So it'll be, I know Microsoft, maybe 8 years ago or so, they said they made Internet Explorer. Whenever it found a detected phishing site, it would just cover the whole page with a giant red message saying, "Do not go here, this page is dangerous." And they found that anything less than that, people will just close it and go on. They see, oh, blah, blah, some message came up. You have to make it really, really obvious to stop people from going to a phishing site. So we'll see. This may help, or it may be that people just ignore it. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let me stop this recording.